Welcome, everyone, again to another episode of the Alignment Podcast. Really excited to have Greg Montgomery here with me today. Thanks for coming on, Greg.
Thanks for having me, Jacob. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so my family and I just got back from Disneyland, and my kids, they're in a stage where they're deciding if they like rides or not. And I have this thought right before we hit record. I'm just gonna say anyhow. We're standing in line for the rides that she hadn't been on before. Right? She's 6. She was like, "My tummy feels funny again," because she's like nervous about what's this ride gonna be. And we had a fun conversation around like, well, are you nervous or are you excited? And sometimes you get to pick. Are you nervous or excited? Like it feels the same way. It's just what like, do you think you should be scared or do you think you should be really excited? And so it was fun. But I am excited. I'm not nervous to have you on the podcast. I'm excited to have you on the podcast, Greg. To get things kicked off, I would love to have you tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you've been, and what you're most excited about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I empathize with your daughter right now because I told you this before. This is my very first guest star appearance on a podcast. I was super excited when I got that message from you asking me to come on. So I don't know whether I'm nervous or excited right now. Probably just a little bit of both or a lot of both. Either way. So no, Greg Montgomery, me and my family, I'm born and raised in Mesa, Arizona. Been here for most of my life. My wife and I lived up in Cache Valley for a few years. We loved it up there. We actually miss it. I would love to come back. Maybe, hopefully someday. We'll see what happens. We got 4 kids. My journey feels, I don't know if you just want me to go into my journey or professional or whatever, but I guess I would just say I've been around the block. I have a really diverse work background, and a lot of that is, you know, a guy in his 20s trying to just not not knowing exactly what I want in life, other than trying to figure out how to make as much money as possible in the best and easiest ways possible. And so that came with a lot of different jobs, different positions, different roles that has shaped me into the man I am today. I'm not saying I'm the greatest man, but I try. I try to be an okay guy.
That's awesome. I think one of the things. So I've been thinking a lot recently about right, and this some people listening will be like, yeah, these words aren't usually used in business. I've been thinking a lot about the place for love in work relationships, in business, leadership, and culture, and the inherent inability to scale that love has in our relationships, right? We often, when we think about accomplishments and success, it's like, how were we able to multiply and scale things? Somebody built a software and so they put in work now, and then they sold it to a bunch of people and they didn't have to do anything for those other people to use it. Or, like somebody records a podcast and so they don't have to talk to a million people anymore. They just have a million people who tune in and listen to whatever they want. Maybe someday we'll have a million people who listen to this. But
I agree with you.
one thing as the year was turning and I was thinking about, okay, who are people I want to have on the podcast? I thought about you, Greg, because of your ability to love and at a one-on-one and connect at a one-on-one level, because I think that truly is leadership, and intentional leadership is connecting with people one-on-one where they're at. And that's not something that you can like phone in or, ask ChatGPT to do for you. And that all of my, somewhat limited interactions with you have very much felt that genuine concern and connection. I'm curious, is that something that has always come natural to you, or is that something that you've had to work on?
No, it's pretty much always come natural to me. There was a podcast by Ed Milet. The episode, for anybody who wants to look it up, it was Blissful Dissatisfaction. And that episode of that podcast literally changed my life and the way that I look at life and happiness and fulfillment, and especially love. To go back a little bit from that, I received a note in my early 20s, and it was a note um, with down at the bottom of the page, and it was a note that Stephen R. Covey had written to a guy that I met in Idaho. And it was a story from his book. I think it's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, he shares a story about love. And he shares a story about a man who says, "Hey, I'm not in love with my wife anymore. I don't love her anymore, or we don't love each other anymore. And what should I do now?" And Stephen R. Covey simply said, "Well, just love her more." And the guy says, "No, I don't think you understand. I don't love her anymore. We don't love each other." And he says, "Great. Well, just love her some more." And then he goes on to explain that love is a verb. Love is an action word. Love is something that you do. And our society has taught us that love is just a feeling, right? And that we're just a product of our feelings. And therefore, right, that's where a lot of the victim mentality comes from and everything like that, because we're just a product of our feelings and we don't have to take any accountability for anything else. And he goes, if you want to look at the greatest examples of love, especially sacrifice, it's a mother for her children, right? A mother loves her children because she has done so much for them. She's not only carried them in her womb, but then she's birthed them, she's fed them, she's kept them clean, she's kept them fed, she's kept them everything, she's kept them safe. And that's why there's so much love between a mother and her children. I love my children because I sacrifice for them. You love your wife because you sacrifice for her. You do things for her. So love isn't just a feeling. Anyways, so I say that to say, as I listened to this podcast from Ed Milet, where he was talking about blissful dissatisfaction, the difference between happiness and fulfillment, he goes, I'm a firm believer of this: money can't buy happiness. BS, total BS. Money can buy happiness. It can buy you that car that you want. It can buy you that nice dress. It can buy you the whatever, right? But happiness is fleeting. It's only momentary. And true fulfillment comes in true, good, healthy connection and healthy vulnerability. He talks about in that podcast episode how vulnerability is a superpower. But really it comes down to that connection. And he says real true fulfillment comes from identifying the gifts in others and basically telling them about it. And so it's what you just did right there was, "Hey Greg, I like you. I love you because of this. Because you're so great at this thing." And that's what really brings happiness and fulfillment into our lives. And so me understanding that at probably 2018, 2019-ish is kind of when I was introduced to that. And I've listened to that episode I've over 100 times. I've re-listened to it over and over and over again. I dang near have it memorized in my head, but that was a huge turning point for me in understanding love and connection, and how love's not just a feeling, it's an action. It's going and doing something. And sometimes that doesn't mean I have to go and sacrifice hours and hours for you working in your yard or anything like that.
You could though. You could.
I
My yard
I
could use it.
mine too, trust me. It's going and being willing to, like what you said, sit with somebody where they are, meet somebody where they are, give them a good smile, give them a hug. In my case, what you know me from, or what a lot of other guys know me from, is cooking for them, right? I've been able to go to these awesome men's retreats, shout out to Here Brotherhood, and cook for guys. And you can't even imagine the love and the gratitude you feel when you're sacrificing for other people. So, really long answer to your question. I'm sorry, but that's it. It has come naturally to me, but I've really started to really understand that and develop that natural gift or that natural talent more in the last 5 or so years of my life.
Oh, that's awesome. That wasn't the longest answer I've ever gotten. So you're good. Yeah, I think it is really powerful to recognize that, because then we can seek those opportunities out when often you think of in a, a leadership team context within people you work with, we don't give the time to do that. And the most powerful relationships are built when we do legitimately care for someone else. He wasn't my manager, but somebody who was, I worked in an R&D group, and he led a lot of the like research and strategizing around how we should work and how we should learn. And I became friends with him right when I had got promoted to be a manager. And so, went from like having no teams underneath me to then having a handful of people. And we talked about this idea of how do you do one-on-ones. And he pointed me to some resources, but I've always remembered he talked about, hey, you should like a one-on-one mainly is to build a relationship. Like it's not to follow up on things. Like you should be following up on things like through emails and different, like you don't have a one-on-one to discuss the like very tactical. Instead, it's the relationship. And so
Yeah.
there should be a healthy amount of like, hey, if this is gonna be 30 minutes, you get 10 minutes and we can talk about whatever the heck you want. And then I get 10 minutes and we can talk about whatever I want. And then we're gonna have the last 10 minutes and it's like, okay, what does our team need? Like, how do we discuss the greater picture here? Um Obviously those times were never like super set in stone, but
Yeah.
really helping develop that relationship is one of the most powerful things I think in leaders and their ability to do that intentionally, because it comes easily, right? Like it comes easily with some people. It's easy for me to call you on the phone and be like, legitimately care because I like you and you're nice. It is a lot harder to call somebody on the phone that's like been like who's abrasive and prickly
Mm.
and feel, like I legitimately care for them. And I've had that in different ways. I'm curious, as you look at people that you've interacted with, what ways has that intentional relationship building stuck out to you and made a difference in your life?
Yeah, so one of the stories I was thinking of before this was I was working for a property management company, and I was not happy in the position that I had been in for 6 or so months. And there was this new marketing director that they had hired on, and she was just the nicest, always willing to stop and have a conversation with anybody. I say this with a disclaimer. It wasn't those conversations that like first of all are awkward or abrasive or anything like that. She just felt so genuine. Every time she walked into the room, every time whatever she needed business wise, it was so easy to help her and give her and everything because she just every time she walked in the room, it wasn't just about business. It wasn't just about what she needed. It was about, hey, how are you? What can I do to help you also? And I really appreciated that with her and from her. And then talking to her one day, she talked about, hey, I might need some help on the marketing team. I had never done marketing before. Marketing was never even anything I considered in my wheelhouse or anything. And I said, I raised my hand. I volunteer as tribute. And so I actually transferred from that position, kind of a lateral shift into that marketing helper slash specialist type of position for her on her team. And the short time that we worked together was kind of a paradigm shift in my way of looking at like a good manager, good supervisor, good leader in business. And it was she went out of her way. I didn't have any clue what I was doing. So I was messing stuff up all over the place. But I was trying to be a good student and I was trying to be grateful and everything. And I know that she saw that and she saw how hard I was trying. And she went out of her way to stop and just thank me. Hey, Greg, thank you so much for everything that you are doing. Thank you so much for just having a good attitude, for wanting to be on my team, and all these things. That was the first time a manager in my whole working history had ever just stopped and genuinely said, hey, I'm glad to have you on the team. Thank you for being on the team. I don't know if that's just because I've made so many bad choices in my life of jobs or what. It was like, wow, I feel so validated right now. I feel, and then at that point, you're willing to share anything with them because they showed up, came down to your level, and said, hey, I'm grateful for you. I like you. Glad you're here. what else can I do to help you? And I loved that. So that was one big story. The other thing that I'll say is one huge example that I look up to a lot. I'm sure most people are familiar with Gary Vee. Gary Vee posts a decent amount of content, and I love the example that Gary Vee gives to the world of business. He's the CEO of his company, and right next to him is not the COO and it's not the CFO, it's the CHO, his chief heart officer. And that person's job literally is to do nothing but go and have good, healthy connection with every single employee. Get to know them, get to know their life, exactly what you were saying, basically one on ones every single day, just helping people and connecting with people. And I think that is the greatest. And I think other business leaders might look at that and scoff at it and say, oh, yeah, that would be nice to pay somebody to do that. Well, guess what? It affects the bottom line because your employees are happier. And when your employees are happier, it reflects on your customers. And when your customers are happier, they're going to keep coming back and they're going to refer people. And that ultimately affects the bottom line. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, that yeah, it's amazing. I literally the reason I was late to this to record this podcast on the phone with a chief people officer of a plumbing company. What plumbing company has a chief people officer? Nobody. This one does, and they've doubled their revenue every year for the last 4 years, right? They did $25 million in 2025. They're on track to do 50 million this year and
That's
double their
awesome.
headcount. And it's because the owner recognizes this and is investing in that. It's been interesting. You know, I my limited experience of Gary Vee is I can remember his like first video where he's standing in the gas station parking lot and just like, F bomb every 4 words of like, you have no excuses why you should not. And it was just like very polarizing.
Yeah.
And at the time, very shock factor. And now everything I see is like so like full of love. And it makes me, I imagine he went through this like seeking happiness to fulfillment
Yeah.
track of him realizing, oh, wait, making a ton of money and being successful in business doesn't bring fulfillment. It can bring, fleeting happiness but not the lasting fulfillment that comes through relationships and genuinely caring about people.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think is a paradigm shift that we all need to. It's not something that you can be like, hey, you should change the way you're thinking about this. And like, oh, of course, I'll do that. But it really is a kind of a inner work that's a really really important to do. Okay, we could go on for a long time. I know we could. We're getting close to the end. I wanted to give you a second. I know that related to what we were just talking about. I know that you're involved right now in a handful of different efforts to help people focus on kind of this shift from, fleeting happiness to fulfillment and deeper inner peace. Can you talk for a minute about that and if people want to follow along where they can go to find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you used that intentional language of shifting. So, one of the big projects that I'm working on right now is creating a high end, kind of high ticket men's retreat. And that men's retreat is life altering, transformational experience central. It's called The Shift. And that terminology, that branding is all intentional, especially as men. We work, we maybe have some hobbies, maybe not. We sacrifice a lot for our families, our friends, and everything. And so the shift is an intentional way for men to come and gain unforgettable and transformational experiences. Also connect, be able to connect and have a bigger network of other guys as well. And to come away not only resetting, right? Kind of disrupting their daily grind, their daily life and responsibilities, not escaping, but resetting from those and being able to pause so that you can come back more fulfilled, better able to handle emotions, better ways of looking at emotions. So we have an all-star cast of facilitators. We have Mitch Whiting, professional, mindset and performance coach. We have Curtis Morley, who is a emotionologist and who talks a lot about different counterfeit emotions, counterfeit identities that cause a lot of shame in a lot of men's lives. And we have Tyler Farnsworth, who is talking about storytelling, and he's an expert storyteller, and the stories that we tell ourselves and then others that we're connecting with. So that's my shameless plug to go look up the Shift Retreat. I'm super excited about it. It's a big project, and ultimately the value gained from that is going to be volumes and just exponential better mindsets, better performance, better connections, and everything around all of that. And so I'm super excited about it. It's going to be super awesome. And it's going to be an amazing opportunity to meet other guys in that same realm, that ultimately will be better connections for life. And everybody will walk away as better and leveled up versions of themselves. So super excited
That's
about
awesome.
that. And I don't know,
What's the best way for people to find that online? Is there a website? Is it look at your stuff
follow
on LinkedIn?
yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, Gregory Montgomery. Also, go to shiftretreats.com. Follow me on LinkedIn, and I'm posting about it a lot. It's coming up in April, April 23rd through the 26th, Parowan, Utah, in a huge lodge that's going to be awesome. And yeah, I'm so excited about this because it is going to change so many lives. We're going to have some awesome guys there, some you know, big names to come network and connect with too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for coming on the podcast and for your example of intentional leadership by love. It, I'm excited to see how you continue to positively influence the people around you to be better leaders. So, thank you for all that you do, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Grateful for you, buddy. Hope you have a good rest of your day.